My name is David Landini. I'm with Chris Crump, the owner of Mathoura Red Gum Sawmill, on Tuesday the 18th of March at Mathoura, of course. And this is a policy presentation to Chris of the Riverina State Group policy toward the management of the Millewa forests. I think they're now called the Murray Valley National Park, but I'm referring to the Millewa forests as they were in 2010. So Chris, it's great for you to take the time to be here, because Chris is quite busy today, but this is a very, very important issue. So Chris, can you just tell me a bit about yourself and your business in Mathoura?
Yeah, no, we're just Mathoura Red Gum Sawmill, based in Mathoura here, and we used to harvest out of that Millewa forest out there, which we don't anymore. So, yeah.
And I think there's been harvesting there since the 1870s, which is about 150 odd years.
Yeah, 150 years of harvesting. So we've harvested for 150 years, and it's a forest that everyone seems to want now. So it's still a forest there.
There's been 150 years of harvesting in that Millewa forest, and that's about 20,000 hectares, I think, isn't it, Chris, altogether?
Is it 32, Dave?
20 to 30,000 hectares.
Yeah. 40, actually, 40.
40,000 hectares,
yeah.
So it's a big group of forests, harvested for 150 years, and it's all still there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
In fact, Chris, as Chris was saying earlier, when you look at the early maps and the surveys of the area, there's actually, and this might sound strange or paradoxical, that after 150 years of harvesting, there's actually more red gum there now than what there used to be.
No, exactly, and better trees, because you harvest them and they grow bigger and better, and gives you more habitat. Yeah, so they don't, you look after the trees that are going to grow on.
That's right. So, and the early maps and surveys are proof of that. So we can speculate about why that is, but we can't deny the fact that after 150 years of harvesting, there's more trees there now, and as Chris pointed out, better quality trees. And this will come into what we will talk about in a minute, as in the harvesting practices, that the better quality trees are actually left.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you want to grow habitat, you've got to keep the better tree and let it grow on. So it's no good thinning a bush and then taking your grower out. So you leave it; it'll either grow habitat or it'll grow log.
Yep. So with the actual harvesting, Chris, it's always been quite regulated, as in it's not just go and slash and burn and cut the whole lot down. And can you describe just a little bit about how that the regulation was, Chris?
It's all divided into paddocks out, like big paddocks out there, and you go in. You have a rotation. You go in, I don't know, 15 to 25 years, maybe 30 years, depending on the areas, and you go in. You harvest them. Like a crop, you rotate it around so that you harvest it and you go back to another area and come back in 25 years. That's pretty simple.
And even in those paddocks, so they're on about a 25 to 30 year rotation, or depending on the quality of the timber, but even in those paddocks, the timber is selected and based on its suitability and to not affect the regrowth or the recreation of the forest, and also a lot of habitat protection too, I believe, Chris.
Oh yeah, for sure. We have habitat trees and recruitment trees that get recruited for habitat.
Yep.
So there's probably more houses than tenants out there at the minute, but anyhow. Yeah.
That's right. And it's quite logical. The workers in the timber industry don't want to go and ruin the supply of their timber.
Oh no,
so
that's your livelihood. Why would you wreck your livelihood?
So the industry itself wants to make sure that there's a renewing, regenerating forest there, because it keeps the industry
viable.
Keeps it viable and keeps it in existence.
And exactly what was happening before it was locked up.
And that's what was happening. So the forest, the Millewa group of forest was in 2010, when it was turned into a national park, there was an accountancy company named Arch Consulting to report on the forest. And Chris, can you tell me a bit about the value of the industry at that time, back in 2010?
Yeah, back in 2010, I think it was a survey done by the National Resource Commission. I think called for it. It was an $86 million a year industry. God only knows what it would have been worth now. And when they closed it, we lost 400 odd jobs just overnight, just gone, you know, like it's unbelievable.
Yep, Arch Consulting estimated at the time it was $86 million per year in gross income, direct and indirect, and there were 450 jobs either directly or indirectly entirely reliant on that industry.
Exactly right, exactly right. And the other thing is, don't forget you've got that flow-on effect.
Yes.
From, you know, from businesses in Melbourne where we used to sell the timber, you know, like it's just unbelievable.
Yep,
what
the whole thing was 86. Arch Consulting estimated $86 million per annum. So what happened, Chris, in 2010? What happened anyway?
Well, the Labor Party got in and they were chasing green preferences in the city.
But the New South Wales state government, which was a Labor state government at the time, they declared it a national park.
Exactly. Yep.
And the effect of that was that
straight away, virtually nearly overnight, they closed it down and locked us out.
Well,
so
because by definition, a national park excludes forestry.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, for sure.
So they turned it from a state forest,
which everyone could use, multiple use forest. It was a multiple use forest to now where it's locked up and left.
Yep. So and that was in 2010. So it was turned into a national park, and as I said, by definition, the whole industry was excluded from that 40-odd thousand hectares of forest, and the whole industry was.
And the reason that was given was, as Frank Sartor said, I'm going to give you people a lesson in politics.
Chris, I'll just say, I've actually. This is not the official reason that was officially given out.
Yeah.
The official reason, Chris, give us the official reason first, please.
Well, lack of water was one of them.
A lack of water?
Lack of water, so because it wouldn't rain again, so you know, drought and climate change, this bush wasn't going to grow, and we need to turn it into a national park, take water off irrigators to actually water it. When we'd grown it all these years that have been grown to what it is there now. So we needed to rob irrigator, you know, buy back water from irrigators to turn it into a.
So the reason was to the forest was going to die if it wasn't declared it was to save the forest. So that's why it was declared.
And it wouldn't flood again.
And we were told that the industry operators were told that it would not flood again. And that was proven to be false.
Well, 2010 and 2011 back-to-back floods.
And so that's the official reason, but because Chris and other industry operators debunked and disproved and showed that the claims made by the state government were false, eventually one of the members of parliament gave another reason for it, Chris, and can you explain what that was then?
Yeah,
so I would say this is the unofficial reason, but I think had more effect on why it was done.
Yeah, Frank Sartor said in a meeting in Denellingman said, I'm going to give you people a lesson in politics. The Greens hold 15% of the vote. We need those votes to stay in power. We also need a significant national park, and we want it in Red Gum.
The Greens said to the Labor Party that in the Labor Party's negotiations with the Greens to pick up the Green preferences from 15% of the vote and to keep Labor in power.
Exactly right. He admitted that. He actually admitted it.
Yeah.
He denied it, but he admitted it. Well, it was said in that meeting.
It was said in a meeting. So Frank Sartor was being a little bit honest there. Probably a bit too honest for a political party, but he was, and we can safely assume that was the real reason that it was declared a national park, and that was because the Greens Party, in part of the deal with the Labor Party, was we'll give you our voters' green preferences. You give us a national park in Red Gum. And
just bear in mind that these people that don't live here have nothing to do with it here. It was just about inner city green votes. That was what all it was about. It wasn't about science or fact or truth or honesty. It was just about those people in the inner city votes. Bloody terrible.
Yeah, and that's right, Chris. So what was the effect, Chris, like when it was declared a national park and the industry was effectively shut down?
Well, that was it, David.
Yep.
A lot, 400 odd jobs gone.
Just disappeared.
So future for your families that were here. gone, and then a forest being locked up that can turn into the biggest fireball you've ever seen in all your life. And what are we saving it for? We're saving it for what? To burn, what? And destroy the habitat that we actually created. So, I don't know.
Do you think it's inevitable, Chris, that a bushfire with the huge fuel load on the ground,
Yep.
because there's no firewood collection and so forth,
Yep.
you think that's inevitable that a bushfire will start and burn half or all the forest down anyway?
It has to, Dave. It'll start here probably at the highway there, and it won't stop till it hits Toke, and that's just how it is.
And that's a fact. Yeah, and if anyone's ever been anywhere near a bushfire, they know how destructive and how terrifying and dangerous they actually are.
Yeah, exactly. The trouble is, no, they don't seem to look at our history before they make these decisions, or they don't listen to people that live in the area. So it is very disappointing, and I just don't know how. We're trying now. We've just got to start. At least small country towns have got to start to fight now.
Yep. So if that industry was reinstated, Chris, what would be the effect on towns such as Mathoura and Deniliquin and Millewa and Barham? Because there's a wide range of people in a wide range of towns that benefit from this forest. So what would be the effect, Chris?
Instantly. Instantly there'd be money going back in for the government. Instantly. We'd have a bush then, that you could actually go out there and camp and recreation and unbelievable. And then and the employment would just be unbelievable. Just like, it's just, you'd go out there like it's,
the wealth created and the jobs would be so.
Yeah,
you can't even estimate how good it would be for towns such as Mathoura, Millewa, Deniliquin and Barham.
Yeah, exactly.
And the people in those towns, I should say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, look, it'd be unbelievable. Just like it was before. Our whole town would be thriving instead of dying. And
just for example, in Mathoura, in the business community, which relies on the population with the money to spend, there is 3 hotels in Mathoura.
Yeah, there's only one now.
But there's only one now.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just been devastating what's happened here, and they promised all these tourists. Well, it never happens. You've got to have your core industry, because the tourist numbers are just made up. Yeah,
that's another thing. It's a bit deceptive, actually, the state government, and I think it's mainly for the urban audience. When the local population complain that we'll lose our jobs, we'll lose our population, but the political leaders to the city audience say that, oh no, that won't happen because tourism will replace all those jobs. So it sort of mollifies people in the city that might be upset that people in the country will lose their jobs. But in actual fact, Chris, those tourism jobs...
never eventuate.
They never eventuate.
No, they can't, David, because, they'd come up here before, and when we had the tourism, when they could go out and camp out the bush, and these were kids that were kids then when you used to see them, and then they'd grow up and then they'd bring their family. That's when it happened.
Yep. Yeah. So, Chris, the Riverina State Group has devised a timber policy for the Millewa forest, and I shall present that to Chris in 1 minute. But a brief summary, this policy is available on the Riverina State website. The Riverina State Group will reinstate the timber industry as it was in 2010. The Riverina State Group will reinstate the harvesting practices as in 2010, with the paddocks and the rotation of paddocks on around a 15 to 30 year rotation. The selective harvesting that took place as in 2010. And ultimately, Chris, because that industry will be reinstated under the Riverina State Group policy, that will recreate in $2024 instead of $2010, $86 million per annum in jobs in $2010, escalated or increased up to $2024.
Yeah.
So that is the Riverina State Group policy, Chris.
Thanks, David. Yeah.
And I would like to present that to Chris.
Good on you, David.
Chris can read that. If you'd like to make a comment, Chris, on what you think.
Yeah, no, it's very good, David. It's about time it happened. You've only got to have a look in Victoria, what's happening down there now. And if we don't start fighting and stand up, we are in big trouble in this country. Manufacturing will be gone. These resources will just be locked up and burnt. I mean, you know, it's just ridiculous. So people have got to start to stand up and fight. And it's these little communities that are suffering.
Yep. Now, of course, the Riverina State Group policy is good. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Oh yeah, for
Very
sure,
good.
David. Yeah.
Now, practically, I know and we all know that this policy cannot be enacted in the state of New South Wales because New South Wales is dominated by a green-oriented urban population. But this policy can and will be enacted in a Riverina state, which is one of the reasons why this group and a lot of people in these areas are promoting and supporting the formation of this Riverina state.
Yeah, just bear in mind that politicians are not here, they move on, so it all changes, whereas our families are here all the time and here forever. So just remember that. It's our life and our livelihood that they're taking off us, and it's our future, kids' future that they're taking off us. So the generations are still here. Where politicians come and go, we are still here.
That's a great point to make, Chris. Chris,
Thanks, David.
thank you for your time.
Good on you, mate.
And we will get there.
Yeah, thanks, David.